Welcome back, traders and investors. We have Alan Brochstein on the line of the 420 Investor. And Alan, you had one busy week last week.
Yeah, not a great week. We went into the week kind of looking forward to the lifting of the can halt, and we walked right into another halt.
Which
All
one
right.
got halted now?
Grow Life, symbol PHOT.
Okay, let's just go back and look at the can first before we go into the grow life here. They resumed trading on that. What I believe there was that on Wednesday or Thursday, and boy, you had a lot of people just hitting the exit button here. Actually, it opened at 7 and then rallied up nicely, rallied to 20. Really is not holding it here. So what's your short term and long term outlook here for Advanced Cannabis Solutions?
So I can't remember if we talked about this a couple weeks ago. This was the fourth halt. It was the second SEC halt in a row. Before Grow Life was the third. And the situation there, it was pretty clear from the SEC. I mean, it wasn't a press release, but their release that this was related to a third party. And that's what our due diligence, mine and members of 420 Investor, seems to be pretty broadly accepted now, that it relates to the reverse merger and one of the shareholders that was involved with that. So I think the market kind of buys into that right now. There's been no news. The SEC obviously hasn't said anything, and the company has been pretty quiet. But it was pretty clear from the language, and you could just go back and see who it was and what was going on, that this is an isolated incident. So the stock, we talked about it the night before, trying to lay some odds on where it might open. I don't have a lot of experience with gray sheet trading, but I don't know if you guys have seen it before. It is not fun to try to trade a stock when there's no bid and offer. But the first day, I think, since it opened on Thursday morning, 130,000, 140,000 shares, a little bit fewer on Friday, but a little hectic. So we kind of thought between 10 and 20 would be the right range, with a outside shot at a lower price. So I think all things considered, it's not so bad considering what it could have been. And hopefully the news will come out, and the company, which I think is one of the better ones, by the way, will work its way higher over time.
Did you have any kind of position going into the halt?
No, so that's one where we really like it. I know some of our I've spoken very favorably of it. I know some of the 420 Investor members certainly did. So whether I had a position or not, I certainly feel badly about it. But we were playing it through FULL. We've talked about that a lot on this show.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so when the news came out 2 weeks ago, I think I told you guys this. Immediately, we had a position there. We sold it immediately, and that was a good sale. It's always, when you see big news like that, that people are going to shoot first and ask later. But it was pretty rational. The stock that morning dropped below 7. We did talk about that, and we actually ended up buying it back later that day in the low 7s, and then sold it subsequently. So since then, we have launched a second model. It's more of a longer term focus. It's supposed to beat the Benzinga 420 marijuana index, which isn't quite yet publicly available, but I've seen the data. And we do have full in that one. I think I've told my subscribers, for now, I think FULL is probably a safer way to play the whole CANN recovery. And we'll see over time. I'd like to see CANN start trading with bids and offers again to get on the pink sheets. So
And then just to refresh our listeners there, they have warrants, right? FULL has
Right.
warrants to buy CANN.
Right. So that deal that we've talked about, there's 1 million warrants that were announced in mid to late January at $5.50 a share, and FULL paid 50 cents for that. And so that's the known aspect. Then there's also the potential. There's a $30 million line of credit. The first $7.5 million would include a convertible note with a $5 conversion price. So even now, looking at where on the gray sheets where CAN is trading, there's some value obviously to those warrants. And there's about 10.2 million, I think, shares of FULL. So if you just took the quoted price of 13, that seems a little high actually, if you think about it. But 13 less 550 is 750. So there's 7.5 million shares. That's $1. Call it $1.60 roughly of value. And then the FULL NAV is close to $7. So you can make a case, all things equal, but they never are, right? But that there might be value above 8. Now, I think if we find out that FULL has received a convertible note as well, so if there's a loan, I think it would be easier for FUL to go up from here. But you get paid to wait. It's got a nice fat dividend and it's covered and everything. So that's the play I like right now.
Okay, now going to a PHOT, it kind of looks like there's some questions about, booking some director stock at 2 cents when it was trading much higher. Is that pretty much the essence of the halt in
I
PHOT?
don't think that's it. That is a point, and there's a Seeking Alpha contributor who's actually a good friend of mine. I've known him for over a year now, and he pointed that out. That issue is probably most relevant only in the most recent quarter. I would call that a technical problem. There's some other technical problems in the 10K that came out, and this is pretty typical for penny stocks. Remember, these guys are SEC filers. A lot of these companies don't even file with the SEC, so you don't even get to see this type of stuff. But there were some other technical issues, but I don't think that's it. I mean, we've tried to speculate, and actually just a moment ago, Grow Life put out a press release to try to answer some of the stuff. Late Friday, for instance, I shared, it was somewhat alarming. It turned out that on April 9th, the day before the halt, the wife of the CEO, Sterling Scott, sold 5.7 million shares or 5.3, I forgot the exact number, just the moments before, the next day they halted it. So people are like, oh my God, she knew something. Well, in the press release, the company put out that actually the CEO and his wife have been separated for many years and kind of explaining that story. So a lot of people are grasping for information. Everybody wants to know. Grow Life is, by my measures, probably the most widely held name except for GW Pharma in terms of market cap that's actually in the public float. So obviously very widely spread throughout the investment community, but also highly regarded relative to a lot of the players too. So it's a huge disappointment for me personally because obviously that's been one of the ones I like, but just waiting to hear the news on it. We don't know. We
So
can
how long
speculate.
do these things typically halt for now when they halt
2
like this?
weeks, 10
2
trading
weeks.
sessions. That's right. So next Friday, not this week, but the following week, it would presumably reopen. So, it's unfortunate because the SEC, it's good. Well, we should back up a little bit. So what's been going on is go back to last August when the marijuana stocks had really been tanked for, 6 months. FINRA came out with their first warning. And they didn't do anything. It was like at the low of the market, actually. It was kind of interesting. They waited till after the stocks had fallen 75%. In January, they came out again and they warned, but it didn't seem like they were taking any action. And I was a little disappointed because I am seeing a lot of things that are very alarming. And I could tell you about those too. Some of them are funny, but they're not funny. They're really not funny. An example would be press releasing about getting on an airplane to go investigate something about potentially getting into marijuana. We're talking about that kind of silly shenanigans. But in this case, the SEC doesn't have to tell anybody anything. They halt it to protect shareholders. There's no obligation to ever say anything. So it's, you can't prosecute the SEC if they make a mistake. It's just the SEC has a lot of power here. So on the one hand, it's good. FINRA apparently has started making the rounds in March. Bill Shaban, who's one of the most polarizing CEOs in the sector, his ticker is FITX, put on his Facebook that FINRA was making the rounds, and nobody believed it. Even I kind of struggled. I was looking for confirmation. I made a bunch of calls, and I did hear that some companies had been visited actually last August. That was actually good to learn. So it wasn't that FINRA was just sitting on its hands. It just appeared to be the case. But now we've had 5 halts. The first 2 were pink sheets. The third one was SEC filer that nobody really heard of. But these last 2 kind of raise the question, and I don't know the answer, guys, but some people think that there's a little bit of a purposeful effort by the SEC to cool the sector. This morning, Jim Cramer,
Yeah, I
who,
saw that.
yeah, I don't know if you saw that. He first, he for a long time, he wouldn't talk about the pot stocks. Everybody was beating on him to do it, and he finally succumbed, not at the top of the market, but higher than we are now, and certainly after they'd gone up a lot. I mean, by my measure, by the time Jim Cramer put out that first tweet, they'd gone up 4x, and they went up a little bit more. They ended up maxing out at about 6x or 7x year to date. That's a huge move. So where we are now, we've retraced about 50% of the market, and some of the names are breaking down worse than the others. Obviously,
Yeah.
that's bound to happen.
That FITX, just to stop you there for a second, because I know there's a lot of local ties there with this potential
Right,
thing
right.
they're doing here in Windsor, Ontario. And I've driven by there, and they got this double fence going on. I mean, there's some
Oh,
major
you've
stuff
seen it?
going
You've,
on there.
you've actually seen
Yeah,
it live? Yeah.
yeah. Well, I think that's the rumor where it is. Like they don't have signs out there
No,
saying this
that's
is
where it
going to be a
is.
pod
I can tell you
facility.
exactly the address. They put it out there. You
Yeah,
saw it.
yeah. So there's like literally like a huge double fence that they've put around that's probably 12 feet high, and they're building two big buildings right there. So it
Right.
looks like there's something going on. I know locally, like everybody this is the buzz because it's had some local coverage there, and a lot of local people in the Windsor, Detroit area are in this FITX. The
Right.
stock itself hasn't looked that great here though in the last little while. What do
Well,
you think what's
it- oh, I'll tell you, a lot of people don't believe yeah, I don't even believe. I don't think that they're lying, but I think they're just aggressive in what they believe they can do. I've met with these guys, and it's fair to question it. The way I've looked at it is what I usually say is if they're a quarter right, it's still a home run in my view, but we'll see. Uh, it looked legit. I went and visited. I've heard they had a shareholders meeting, and a lot of people went out there. It looks to me like the real deal. It's just a question of how big can it be. So we'll see. The company's on the record saying they expect to be audited, complete their audits by, they're a pink sheet company, and quite frankly, not a great record. The guy running it right now came into a real mess, and he's been working to clean it up, from what I gather. And so hopefully by the end of this month, they'll have the audits that they've been expecting. They've taken a lot of effort, as I mentioned, to clean it up already. And then the license. So Health Canada, the way I understand this, I've talked to a lot of companies in Canada. As long as you do what you say you're going to do in this huge plan. And when I was visiting with them, I saw this thing was like, I don't know, over 100 pages. The application's only like a dozen pages or 18 pages, but very complete. So I don't know. The stock has definitely pulled back. It went from basically 0 to 11.49 cents, and it's trading, close to 6 cents right now. So about mid-range right now.
But this is all predicated on. I mean, has Canada made any legislation, towards approving the sale of? I mean, do they have
Yeah,
medical
yeah, yeah. Oh, it's a
marijuana?
big story, guys. So they had a program that went into effect in the early 2000s called MMAR, and it was basically a state monopoly, and then you could grow on your own too. So the grow on your own really bothered Canada. It created mold problems, fire problems, so real social problems that they wanted to address. And so the new system called MMPR, which just launched April 1st. It makes it very easy, from what I understand, to get a prescription, and everything is done by mail order. There's no like dispensaries that you walk into. It's all going to be through mail order, and the new program will have multiple producers. FITX is approved for 1.3 million pounds, and I think that's what bothers people because they don't believe they can do that. So we'll see. It will require. Obviously, they have to build some more. They've talked about that. So it's not just that one building, but it's also going to require some technology that gets more productivity out of their grows.
In the chat room, we're getting a question here about EERB here.
ERBB, isn't it?
Herb,
Yeah,
transbite,
herb,
right,
and the
right, right.
Zaz machine roll out on the 12th.
It looks like a vending machine, like a Coke machine to me. That is their first one. They had another client that walked away. I've been a little skeptical about this. I still am, quite frankly. But people are excited. They think it's neat. I've talked to the company. It is an interesting concept. I mean, if you think about it, if you're a regular consumer, I mean, actually, the mail order in Canada sounds pretty good if you're a regular consumer, but that's not going to be the case in the United States. No mail order. So if you're a regular consumer, you're busy, you know what you want. It'd be really nice to just walk in the dispensary, show your ID, swipe your card, and pick up your product. So it sounds great. I think there's a lot that needs to take place for that to be able to work, and I'm not so sure it will. We'll see. But yeah, there is a lot of buzz over the Zaz. You're right about that.
Okay, just to finish up here, we always go back to, the GW Pharma, and
Yeah,
because that
it hit that level I gave you guys last week.
it did hit the $50 level. I'm still chuckling here. Bank America. I mean, if you can put a little line in the chart. Bank America started covering the stock here, and that's when
Yep.
it got over $85. Now we're
We need them to downgrade it, it sounds like, right?
Fade
We're looking
Bank
for that
America.
downgrade.
That's what we're
Well,
looking for. What do you think? I mean, this thing
I think
had
this
an
is a
amazing.
biotech problem. I mean, biotech has had a huge run, and
True.
it's basically done a round trip year to date. I mean, this stock's still up year to date. They did that big secondary at 36. That's what I was telling you guys last week. I have so I think I mentioned last week that 47 was kind of the number I was looking at as being hopefully about a worst case, but there's no such zero as a worst case, right? So below 47, I'm seeing some stuff around 41, 41.50 maybe, but that 36 really needs to hold. So we have our eye on that, but that's obviously pretty far from here. So hopefully this is the level, 47. I know it broke through there briefly on Friday, but we'll see. I know I was listening to you guys earlier, a little bit better tone in the market this morning, and
Yep,
we'll see what happens.
getting a pop on Citigroup earnings. So, okay, well, Alan, thanks for coming on here. That secondary in GWPH, it's still going on, and it's going to be at the $36
No,
level.
no, no, no. They did
They
that
already
big
did it.
volume day. It opened when it gapped up in January.
Right.
I think
Okay.
it was in mid-January. That was they priced a secondary at $36, and so if those people get totally round tripped, I think the stock would have a big problem. But I don't expect that. That's just something to keep on the radar if we do keep seeing
Well,
weakness. But
they
I
certainly
actually
had
think it'll hold here.
they certainly had plenty of time to get out, at to this point. So, okay, Alan, thanks for coming on. Take it easy.
Happy 420 in advance to everybody.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully there won't be too many halts this week, and you'll be able to catch up on things. Alan, thanks a lot for coming on.
Okay, guys.
Have a good holiday, and we'll talk to you next week.
Aksameach.
Thanks, Alan.